remind our friends and families of the high price paid for
We want this march to be inclusive of, all human rights campaigns. So we're not just concerned about women. We think there are a lot of people who are threatened under these types of policies. We also feel that these types of policies are not unique to the United States, and that's one of the reasons it's extremely important to get people active and involved here in Sydney and in Australia.
I think that he's such a public figure, and everything that he stands for, the comments that he's made and the attitudes that he's shown, it makes people think that it's okay, it condones sexual assault, and we can't have a figure in one of the biggest nations in the world saying that these things are okay because it allows everyone else to just go further with those attitudes. It exacerbates it.
I came here today because I want my daughter to grow up knowing that she should be empowered as a woman, she has equal rights to men, and that she has the right to protest about her rights and where she wants to be and do what she wants to do in her life.
It's a landmark event that, at the very least, I'm standing up for those who can't be here and for those who deserve these rights.
To be with women, help women, support women. That's really it. It's not for anybody else. It's not for Donald Trump. It's not for men. It's just for girls. That's why I'm here. We're now under a regime that literally wants to physically assault us, and I think there's something to be said about that. That's not okay.
I think he wants to roll back Roe v. Wade and take away women's right to choose and have control over their bodies. I think he wants to defund Planned Parenthood. I think he lives in a world where women are subordinate to men and do what men tell them to do, and I don't agree with any of it.
Came out here with all my friends and we bought our daughters, our teenage daughters, and want them to know that they can stand up for their rights and they have a voice in today's world.
Hundreds began to protest in Brussels city centre at exactly the same time as Donald Trump was being sworn in as the 45th President of the United States. They opposed Trump because during his election campaign he said he would ban all Muslims entering the US, and he also talked about deporting millions of immigrants.
I find it very important that human rights stand out and that we make sure that Trump does not get his way and does not shut out people from America and does not make immigrants move back.
Trump is dangerous, very dangerous. We don't know what he will do.
The Brussels protest aimed to remind people that Trump appeared to encourage violence during his election rallies. And of course it is well known that he has made lewd comments about women.
He has shown that he degrades women to sexual objects. He doesn't show a great deal of respect towards women.
We have a lot of important issues: climate change, obviously women's issues, migration, refugees, and if we continue to be divided, then we're not going to find proper solutions to these problems.
The event was organised by several non-profit organisations which called it Lights for Rights. In addition to all the other things, protesters were upset that Trump appeared to mock a man with special needs during his election campaign.
Now in America there is a fascist regime going on the power, and we are here to stop it.
Everything that he says and all the lies that he tells is just incredible, that people still believe him, and that he's now, well, in one of the most powerful positions on earth.
There is much speculation, but at this stage no one really knows what impact this new administration in the US will have. The big concern for these protesters is that Trump's attitudes will be embraced by a growing number of EU citizens. That would pave the way for far-right political parties to take power. What could ultimately happen after that is anyone's guess. Jerome Hughes, Press TV, Brussels.
Angry Americans have held protests in several cities against new President Donald Trump. Clashes erupted between demonstrators and police in Washington, D.C.
first day of Donald Trump presidency, and we need him to know that we're fighting him from day one till the very end of his presidency, or until we get him out of the White House.
Officers in full riot gear used pepper spray and sound bombs to disperse protesters. In return, the demonstrators hurled stones at the police. According to Washington's police department, more than 200 protesters were detained during the rallies. Earlier, thousands of people also gathered in New York City and in Portland to protest against the inauguration of Trump. Protesters questioned the legitimacy of the November election and burned American flags. They vowed to continue the demonstrations. They are infuriated over Trump's campaign rhetoric against women, immigrants, and minority groups.
Unlike previous presidential inaugurations in the United States, this one has witnessed many protests that filled the streets of the U.S. Capitol. Police arrested scores of people after angry protesters smashed windows, damaged cars, and attacked police officers on the streets of Washington, D.C. A number of law enforcement officers were also injured in scuffles that broke out between the protesters and security forces. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of people marched to voice their opposition to Donald Trump's presidency, chanting, "No Trump, no KKK, no racist USA." They blocked the roads that lead to Trump's inauguration ceremony, demanding that the new president change his policies.
I'm here to protest the inauguration of Donald Trump.
What do you want? What are you asking for?
He sold this country a lie. The lie was he's going to make America great again just because he won and was elected by the Electoral College. That does not give him a mandate, and he can't do anything that he wants as president. That we will be there to watch everything that he does.
Others voiced discontent with what they called his discriminatory rhetoric against minorities in the United States.
We're angry about the election of Trump, and it's disrespectful, and he seeks to violate the rights of multiple minorities in America, and we don't think that it's right.
Earlier in the day, protests held near the White House turned violent, with demonstrators throwing rocks at building windows and police vehicles. They also burned and toppled a number of newspaper stands. Police used pepper spray to disperse protesters. As we can see, many are not happy with Trump's presidency, but it remains to be seen how much they may affect his policies or whether he will accommodate their points of view. Elian Al-Khamisi, Press TV, Washington.
People in several countries have rallied to express their anger over the inauguration of Donald Trump as the new U.S. president.
Well, I'm here today to be in solidarity with, I think, the women all around the world who are marching in support of immigrant rights, minority rights, women's rights.
For everyone it's bad, for women, for children, for education, for any minority, for poor people with disabilities. I mean, this is not a human. This is a person without a heart.
This is a protest against the human rights policy that we foresee is going to be implemented in the U.S. and in the region, especially regarding immigration against Latin American countries and countries all over the world.
Thousands of Australians and New Zealanders took part in marches which were part of hundreds of women's rallies planned around the world in a show of disapproval of Trump. In Sydney, people gathered in Hyde Park before marching to the U.S. consulate. Anti-Trump sentiments were particularly high in Mexico and Latin American countries. Mexicans built a wall outside of the U.S. Embassy in a symbolic move to protest Trump's campaign pledges for border fences and crackdown on immigrants. Argentinians burnt American flag in front of the U.S. Embassy in Buenos Aires. Panamanians chanted slogans against U.S. interventions in the region and burnt an effigy of Trump. Rallies against the new U.S. president also erupted in Bolivia and in Peru.